I want to say to everyone that is here, it's an honor to be here. Reverend Turner, it's always an honor to hear your words. A man who's truly trying to work in the community for change and trying to make sure that Greenwood still remains great. You know, I think it's ironic that we have a president that talks about make America great again. Anytime that you have something that is great, that means that there's nothing that needs to be changed. But we know from the history of the United States that that is not the case. Because if things didn't need to be changed, Dr. King would not have marched and died for the cause of freedom and equality. If things didn't need to be changed, women in this nation would have been granted equal rights the minute that the pen touched the paper that made us a nation. We know today that things are not great. And in order for us to make them great, we must first be truthful to ourselves. Now, I know that there are some brothers and sisters that are over at another event that is taking place today. But my question to them is this: why is it such an offense when you say that you are against police brutality, that you are against police violence, that you are against law enforcement officers not acting within the law that they've sworn to observe, uphold, and continue to make sure that the citizens of this city, this state, and this nation are protected by? Why is it such an offense when you say that there needs to be change, and then all of a sudden you seem to be anti-police? No one here is anti-right. What we are is we are anti-wrong. And if you're anti-wrong, you have to be big enough to stand up and say, there's a change that needs to be made, and we need to be big enough to make that change. As you all know, there was a mural that was painted here not that long ago that had the words Black Lives Matter. I stated no more than 3 or 4 weeks ago, before it was removed, if Black Lives mattered, that would have never been painted on the street, because it would have been a given. It would have been a given here in the city of Tulsa, in the state of Oklahoma, and in the United States of America. But let's face it, folks, and let's be real, Black Lives do know. They were called Leninists, which is a phrase that I hadn't heard in quite some time. They were called pure evil for trying to ensure that people are treated equally. So my question is this: as we stand here and as we gather and as we say never again 21, the only way that that's going to happen is people are ready to accept truth. What happened in 1921 was a crime. Any other crime, there's always restitution for that crime. But yet, here we are on the cusp of 2021, and when you mention that there needs to be restitution, then all of a sudden that's going to cause division. Nobody wants to have that conversation. If you want this nation to be great, you must face facts. Right now, we are not great, and simply spouting it because you're trying to appease to a base does not make it right. So what are we going to do to make those changes? Well, first of all, Reverend Turner mentioned it takes truth. It takes being able to be the light. And let me tell you, being the light is not always easy. Because what it means is that you're seen. And when you become seen, that makes you a target. You begin to see whether or not the people that say that they stand with you actually stand with you. That includes, sadly enough at times, people that you have known all of your life and consider to be your friends, your neighbors. The people that you have known to be your center and your foundation will sometimes question you because you are trying to seek light. For those of you who may not be religious, for some of you who are, even Yeshua, Jesus, was questioned trying to be the the light. So, if he was questioned for trying to do the mere will of God, what makes you think that you will not be questioned? You will be. But the difference is that if you stand for light, light always conquers darkness. Dr. King said one time as he was in a church, he said, I am tired of marching. I'm tired of marching for something that should have been mine at birth. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Yet, when you try to bring it to the attention that all men are not, you are considered to be in the wrong. You're considered to be a troublemaker and a rabble-rouser. You're considered to be pure evil when all you are trying to do is expose the things that would make us all good. So what do? We're gathered here today to make a statement. And that statement is very simple. We will not remain silent as long as there is injustice in this city, as long as there is injustice in this state, and as long as there is injustice in this nation. You will be called names. You will be called all sorts of demonstrative and evil things. But in the end, it matters not what you're called, it matters what you do. So I would encourage each and every one of you to stand for your purpose. Stand for what you know is right. Because the trailblazers that came before you, they did it. Some of them lost their lives. Some of them lost their freedom. Some of them lost their reputation. But in the end, they still stood for what they knew was right. So let's stand together and make sure that our nation knows. Make sure that our state, our city knows. Make sure that our city leaders know, who sometimes seem to forget that it's the populace that elected them, to make sure that they represent us. Not that we abide by theirs. Not that we are appeased by words and not action. Let us make a stand today and say enough is enough. There will never be a 21 as long as there are people that stand up like we are today and say we will not allow this to happen again. I want to encourage each of you as I look across this, what I would call rainbow coalition. Yes, I stole that from Reverend Jackson, so I hope he will allow me to do that. But as I stand across and I see a sea of people, black, white, Hispanic, Native American, male, female, of different genders, of different races and preferences. It doesn't matter what you bring to the table as long as you know that the table that you are coming to is a table that is meant to make change. Let's move forward, guys. Let's continue. Don't stop. Do not grow weary. Let us continue on in the day so that at the end of the course, as Dr. King said, we can all, each and every one of us, join hands and say, free at last. Free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. And that freedom only comes by remembering these names that are in front of us today. Let us not forget that our purpose is simple. As long as we stand for what is right and true, God will always be on our side.